Hi, everyone, and happy holidays. Thank you so much for joining us for our special seasonal webinar, a Merry Closing Entry and a Happy Fiscal New Year. So as I mentioned, my name is Sarah Mogadassi, and I'll be your holiday host for the day. I'm one of the account executives here at Quadient, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have during today's webinar. You can feel free to drop them in the chat as we go, and I'll make sure to address them in our question and answer section at the end. Or you're more than welcome to follow up with me at my email address listed here in your own time. So just to kick this off here, I want to take this opportunity to ask a quick question. Just curious, how many invoices do you think your team is processing in regards to accounts payable per month? And we'll open up that poll for you guys. So a couple of the buckets we have listed, so between 0 to 75 a month, 76 to 150, 150 to 300, between 300 to 500, or 500 plus. All right, let's see if we could see those answers here.
Yes, I have them on my end here, and 50% went with 0 to 75.
Awesome. Okay. So as we're thinking about that, I want you to think about the answer you just gave in. In light of the figures, start to crunch the math in your head regarding the amount of time and dollars spent processing all those invoices. Now, before we get started here, let's take a quick peek at today's agenda. So we'll begin by exploring some of the personal pressures we all feel at this time of year and how they might conflict with your work commitments. Next, we'll examine some of the factors that make December silly season for accountants and the challenge of closing the books for the year. We'll also explore how we prepare ourselves for the upcoming one. And on a positive note, we'll share some tips and techniques to help shift your mood from Ebenezer Scrooge to Buddy the Elf this December. And finally, we'll get finished off with a short product demo and a question and answer session. So let's dive right into it. Now, the holidays are a time of joy and celebration, a time to be with family and friends, to eat, drink, and make merry. But we all know the reality can be a little bit more complex than that, especially when you're a finance professional. The fact is, the holidays can be a stressful time of year, and that's before we start considering our professional commitments. You've got a short window to get all your shopping done, both gifts, food, the stores are crazy busy, delivery times slow right down, and if you don't act fast, your holiday essentials might already be out of stock. Now, all that shopping has a financial impact on North American families too, with the average American spending $826 every year on gifts, food, and celebration. And that's according to the National Retail Federation. Now, this is the time of year when our social calendars really start to ramp up as well. During the 4 short weeks of December, there are office parties to attend, social gatherings with friends and coworkers, dinners, kids events, and more. It's all too easy to find yourself burning the candle at both ends. And then there are those family commitments to consider. We all love our families dearly, don't get me wrong. Well, most of us do. But the annual obligation to get together with relatives near and distant can cause some unwanted friction. You might also be traveling at this time of year, and that's never easy with roads and airports choked with other holiday travelers. And finally, if you do get stuck with the responsibility of preparing a holiday dinner, that's a whole other level of pressure and stress to contend with. So let's just hope everyone's grateful for your efforts. Now, we're being a bit jocular here, but seasonal stress is a real recognized phenomenon. A study from consumer health company Healthline found that 62% of people describe their stress level as very or somewhat elevated during the holidays, with only 10% suggesting they experience little stress at this time of year. And probably that's someone like me who lets their mom take care of all the holiday cooking and make sure they go over to their parents' house to take advantage of that. Now, the sad part is that these personal pressures are just the tip of the iceberg. At least for accountants or for finance teams, the bulk of the holiday stress comes from the workplace. December might signal the start of the holiday season, but for us, it also signals the end of Q4 and the start of accounting silly season. And that means one thing, closing the books. Now, closing the books is often a tedious, time-consuming process, and all the more so when process inefficiencies add further unneeded complexity. Your finance department's year-end to-do list might include identifying overdue invoices and paying vendors and suppliers, paying your outstanding utility bills, managing collections and making sure no invoices are missed, and making endless reconciliations to complete your closing entries. Now, this list doesn't say the half of it. The reality is that the year-end close is a holiday headache for both accounts payable and accounts receivable as you strive to get those journals up to scratch. To make matters worse, December sees a whole lot of extra work crammed into a short month. Offices generally close for a period of time over the holidays, but December is also the time of year when teammates seek to use up unused annual leave. And with office parties and other seasonal commitments further eating into work hours, finance teams tend to feel the squeeze when December rolls around. Now, according to Accounting Today, 87% of accountants work overtime during the financial close process, with late nights and early starts all too common this time of year. It's hardly surprising some of us end the year feeling a little like Bob Cratchit. Not every finance team has a fiscal year that follows the calendar one, but many do. Either way, as Q4 morphs into Q1, business priorities have a habit of shifting and new targets are set. Whether your fiscal year runs from January to January or October to October, a fresh page in your accounting journal means a fresh budget and a new set of goals for the year ahead. Your department's budget will depend on the company's forecast revenues and other capital expenditures. But when it's time to decide where and how it's allocated, where do you invest? Where do you make cuts? Will your budget enable you to reach your departmental goals for the year ahead? Understandably, budgeting can occupy a lot of our time and our thoughts as the year draws to a close. Now, while we're on the subject of goals, goal anxiety can start to hit home as one year becomes another. Did you achieve your goals for the year? Your performance-related bonuses might depend on it, potentially turning a happy new year into a not so happy one. Your department's ability to meet its goals might also impact your budget for the year coming ahead, making these two annual anxieties somewhat interdependent. And then there's your new targets for 2024. How achievable or not they might feel can contribute to a few sleepless nights at this time of year. And we all feel stress a little differently, and some of us experience it more than others. But just consider this quote from Accounting Web. According to a recent study, accounting is among the top 10 most stressful jobs in the world. With the constant stream of tax deadlines, year-end reports, and other financial obligations, accountants are under a lot of pressure to get everything done on time. Now, all of the stresses and pressures we've covered in this webinar so far, both personal and professional, can contribute to a phenomenon called the holiday blues. Now, mental health advice resource Very Well Mind explains how the emotions and demands of the season can take a heavy toll on our psyche. Even people who love the holidays can experience the blues during this busy season. The holidays are often a time of high emotion and demands, which can leave a lot of people feeling stressed and exhausted. Meanwhile, the National Alliance on Mental Illness has found that 64% of people with an existing mental health problem report that the holidays make their conditions even worse. With that in mind, let's consider these 3 techniques you can use to survive and more so thrive this December. Now, there's not much we can do about some of the seasonal stresses we experience at this time of year, but what we can do is emphasize self-care. The acronym NESTS is useful for remembering some of the behaviors and best practices we can use to stay happy and healthy throughout December. These same techniques are used to treat postpartum depression. They're proven and they work. So nutrition, it's easy to slip into bad habits at this time of year and end up eating and drinking too much of the wrong things. But there's no need to be puritanical about it either. Remember, everything in moderation. Exercise. Our normal exercise regimens can take a backseat during the chaos of the season, but making time for a run or a workout can help us maintain good physical and, more importantly, mental health when things get a bit much. Sleep. Sleep is vital for our health and well-being, so try not to let late nights at the office or seasonal celebrations rob you of your 8 hours a night. Time. This means time for yourself to do the things that bring you joy. Carve out some time in your week that's just for you, not work, not family, just you. And finally, support. Lean on your network and let friends and loved ones help you out if you need it. Now, speaking of support, Let's move on to our next technique. The trick to a merrier December starts with accepting that you can't do everything yourself, both in the workplace and at home. Haven't managed to get all your holiday shopping done on time? Maybe your spouse or partner can help pick up a bit of the slack. Daunted by the prospect of preparing dinner? Enlist a few sous chefs from friends and family, share the workload, and make it fun. Now, the same thing should be true in the office. Everyone knows that December is a short month with a lot of absentees, so make sure you communicate with your team members and find out what everyone has on their plate. Daily huddles can help work out who's overloaded and who has capacity to pick up any additional tasks, so consider implementing them for the month of December if you haven't already. Huddles are also a great opportunity to offer praise and feedback, giving team members recognition for their efforts at a time of year when all the extra graft often goes unappreciated. Those end of year tasks aren't going anywhere, but a problem shared is a problem halved. Now, last tip here, number 3, automate. Automating essential finance functions such as accounts payable and accounts receivable can offer huge time savings, both at year end and throughout the year. Quadient's accounts payable automation solution eliminates 83% of manual data entry, giving AP team members hours back in every day. AP automation also provides searchable digital audit trails and full visibility into the entire AP workflow through a single pane of glass, even if you manage multiple entities across multiple ERPs. With that amount of power over your financial data, making your closing entries is significantly more straightforward. Quadient AR automates the entire credit to cash process, accelerating collections by up to 34%, streamlining a significant chunk of your AR team's year-end responsibilities. Now, our AR automation solution also offers AI-powered analytics to forecast your cash flow with up to 94% accuracy, helping you budget for the new year with unparalleled confidence. Of the 3 techniques we've shared with you today, automation undoubtedly offers the most direct and measurable benefit on your year end. Unfortunately, we don't have time to demonstrate both our accounts payable and accounts receivable automation solutions today. So for now, we're going to walk you through Quadient AP. Now, if you are interested in a demo of Quadient AR, please follow up with us after the webinar, and we'd be more than happy to walk you through it at a time that works for you. So let's jump into the tool here. All right, so before we get started, I'm going to give you a quick overview of what you're seeing on the screen. So first page, when we log in, we're taken to the dashboard page. Just gives you bird's eye view of what's going on at any given point in time. So average time different parts of the workflow are taking, what's new in the system, and what's pending as well. Now, if you have multiple entities, you can see activity related to absolutely everything. Or if you want to drill down in more specific details, simply select the entity you want from the list down below. On the left-hand side here, we have our 4 core modules. So we have expenses, purchase orders, invoices, and payments. Now, these are all modular. You can simply add them all up or take parts away to help assist your particular workflow in the workplace. Now let's jump into the invoice module here. As soon as you hop into a module, you're going to notice up at the top, we have our workflow. So in this case, when invoices come into the system, they're going to start on the left and they work their way down to the right, ending in the archive tab for that digital storage. The middle of the screen here, this is going to be your AP team's new workspace. Over on the left, we have custom filters, and these can be added, taken away per user. And lastly, we have our organizational tree down below. So in this particular example, we have the parent company, Green Bean Country Club. We have a subsidiary, Douglas AG, another one, Douglas Fruit, and they're just broken down further, whether it be by departments, divisions, locations. So we can get as flexible as we need to ensure that visibility is easy for you and your team within the system. In terms of users, there are unlimited users for the platform here. So start with 1, scale to 100. Don't need to purchase licenses as you go. Now, depending on the user, it might be safe to assume that we want to have visibility a little bit different. Now, visibility can be sectioned out at different levels here. We can do this at the modular level up at the top. So let's say someone in purchasing comes in, only sees the PO module. They don't really need to be tasked with invoices or payments. We can also do it at the tabular level up at the top on the workflow bar. Maybe think of senior management. They want to hop in, they only want to see what is pending their approval. Or we can go on that tree. Maybe I have a specific department and members of that department, when they hop in, only need to see invoices related to them. Simply toggle out of the full tree. All they're going to see is that one bubble they're a part of. Now for today's webinar here, we're just going to focus on the invoice module. However, the PO module and the payments module are all set up very similarly here. If you do want to see those more in depth, again, we can set you up with a personalized demo to make sure we go through it. But starting off with invoices here, so there's a couple different ways to get invoices into the system. If you have an AP email account or specific email address that vendors are typically sending invoices over to, we can link that up directly to the tool. So the moment they send over an invoice your way, that'll pull into the system and populate in this work queue here. Now for paper copies, we have the Create tab. A couple different ways to get those in. We have a mobile application, which makes it super easy for teammates to collaborate on the go. Simply take a photo of that invoice and upload it through the app. Or if you do have a big batch of paper copies, simply batch scan everything into the system. We can drag and drop into this window here. By clicking upload, let's say I dropped in 17 pages of paper. Instead of having to take this to a different tool, save it, label, organize, I can simply go ahead and organize it on my screen. So by dragging and dropping, I can go ahead and save these invoices as I need to. Now, the moment I click Create Invoices here, these are going to save, and that tagging process, the data capture process, is going to start. And these invoices are going to migrate again into the in progress tab when they're ready for your AP team to review. Now that we have invoices into the system, let's talk about the fun stuff. How is data being captured? Let's hop into an invoice together here. So first thing you notice when you jump into an invoice is we're going to get that PDF visual in the middle of our screen. So your AP team's always going to know what to review by seeing that invoice in the middle. Now, the tool itself is going to take care of a few details. It'll automatically capture and fill out all of the vendor header information, invoice numbers, dates, due dates, subtotals, totals, and taxes for you. In regards to the coding, there's a couple different options here. Now, if you guys have a purchase order within the system, that'll automatically match up to that invoice. So we'll be able to pull in that data right beside each other. With straight-through processing, a new feature we offer for those PO-based invoices, the system's going to take a look at what's on that invoice, what was on that original purchase order, and without your team having to lift a finger, it'll go ahead and copy the appropriate items down below. For those invoices without a purchase order, we have a couple options for data capture here. For repetitive invoices, we have smart code up at the top. So let's say I had this Cavallo bill come in last month, and I decided to tag it to the computer software GL account. Next time I come in, the solution's going to remember my preferences and tag it to that same account for me. Maybe I have multiple line items on an invoice, and I need a little bit more of a detailed data capture there. We have line item capture for those situations. So what that means is that the solution's going to take a look at the line item level there, and based on the description that's written, the vendor, as well as the legal entity that's being billed, it'll go ahead and make those appropriate allocations. Now, typically with OCR, smart code, line item capture, and now straight through processing for those purchase orders, the tool itself can help reduce data capture or data entry by about 83%, sometimes more. Now, it's a clear thing to note here that when it does come to all the info found in the system, we are pulling that straight from your financial system. So the moment you update your Sage on your end, those changes are going to be reflected from here. You still have full control at any point in time. So even if the tool makes a suggestion, if you want to do a one-off change, feel free to change any field. Now, once your team is happy with what was captured here, simply click Submit for approval, and we can route those invoices for another pair of eyes to review. Jumping into the back end, let's quickly hop into the settings. Now, approval channels can be made for any of the modules here, and you can differ depending on the entities, depending on departments, whatever it may be. Now let's hop into invoices, for example. Simply select the entity we want to make those approvals for, and you can create as many approval channels as you like, and we can base it on different criteria. So let's say I'll hop into mine here. Now, when it comes to those specific channels, I can give it a name, pop in a little description. If I want to do dollar thresholds, so maybe any invoice above the $5,000 mark needs to get a second manager's approval, or anything under 10,000 doesn't need approval, I can set that up here. We can also go based on PO matches. So a lot of our customers mentioned that, they have their original purchase order and an invoice comes in and there are discrepancies between the two documents there. By clicking PO match, we can set those thresholds in the back end. So let's say we're okay with a 1% variance. Anything that goes over that 1% will automatically be flagged and sent over to a member in purchasing for review. Finally, we can go based on any lists as well. So we could do vendor, GL account, any other standard list that you guys have within your Sage as well, or everybody's favorite org unit. Let's click Save here. Now, once your approval channel has been created, we can also designate who are going to be the approvers in these scenarios. So simply select the pencil icon here. All of your users are going to be on the left-hand side. Simply toggle over who will be approving as we go. So let's say in this example, Alexandra is going to be that first layer of approval. Maybe Dominic needs to get a second pair of eyes. Or if they have the same level of authority, we could just drag them into a group. So now either or can approve. Once everything looks good in the back end, simply click Save, and these invoices are now going to automatically route if they match that criteria. In terms of notifications, the system's going to automate that for you as well. So no more sending emails, running over to someone's office, checking if things are on your desk. It'll be able to have an automatic notification to their email inbox. Now, for approvers, their experience is pretty easy. Simply log into your email account. You'll get a notification with a daily summary saying, hey, you have 5 invoices waiting for your approval. By clicking the link, they can open up the mobile app directly and see it on their phone, or it'll take them directly to this desktop. Now, approvers are always going to get that visual again. If there are purchase orders or any other supplementary documentation, that'll be available side by side for them to review directly. On the left, they'll be able to see everything that was captured, all the line items down below, and any comments left behind by a team member. We're also rolling out @mentions for collaborative efforts here. Instead of having to get someone else's opinion, having to email around, simply tag them in the comments and that'll not notify them automatically. Lastly, when it does come to approvals, it's an easy one-click approve and reject. By clicking reject, it is mandatory to leave a comment here. That way there's no back and forth. You'll have to tell the person what to change and everything is logged. Now, once this gets the green light, simply click approve, it'll hop into the export tab. And this is that final step to get all this data that was captured pushed back into your Sage system as well. So simply select the invoices you want to export, click actions, export data, and this will flow directly through. It'll mirror the exact same steps that you guys are taking right now, just minus all the effort. Now, once everything has been pushed back successfully, this will hop into the archive tab for, again, that digital storage. So we do house everything here for industry standard of 7 years. And this is perfect when it comes down to audit season, everyone's favorite season of the year. So there's a couple different ways to look up information within the system here. So we do have the global search up at the top. Simply type in a few key characters, maybe an invoice number or a vendor, and it'll go ahead and pull that relevant information off of all the invoices within the system. Or we can use those custom filters I mentioned to our advantage. So a lot of our customers, they mention always having to do internal reports with a similar criteria each time. Simply go ahead and drill down on specific pieces of information on an invoice. Now, this can be as broad as a word on the invoice in terms of text. Maybe we're doing a date range or we're doing an account number. Whatever it may be, simply select that criteria from the list below. Now, when it comes to creating those reports, you have a couple different options. You could do this in a CSV format or PDF, and you can include the level of detail you want the report to show. Click generate. And we'll wait for that to load. Let's see if I are. All right, and jumping in that here. So first page, we're taken to an invoice summary. Just gives us bird's eye view, what's going on in this report here, total dollar value as well. And in case you do have 72 pages of paper included in this report, we have these hyperlinks on the left-hand side. Simply click the link, makes it easier to navigate. It'll take you straight to the original PDF of the invoice that was sent in, the vendor header information, at a line item level where everything was allocated to, and most importantly, an approval history or audit trail. You'll be able to see who approved, reviewed, reset, rejected, or any other actions taken on an invoice there. Now, if there were purchase orders or receiving slips or any other supplementary documentation attached, that'll be included within the report as well. So a lot of our customers, they like to package this up, send it over to their auditors in a nice little jumble there. Or because we do have unlimited users, some customers even give their auditors read-only access to the archive tab. That way, they can't make any changes, they can't tinker around, but they can go in there and pull up that information on their own. Now, one more key thing to note here. So, of course, with our system, you do have the option to do payments. However, if you want to keep payments in-house, no problem. We have a bilateral sync when it comes to Sage. So the moment you go into your Sage instance and you mark an invoice as paid, that'll be communicated with our platform here in the form of these little green dollar bills. Now, by clicking on a bill, you'll be able to see if a payment has been completed, for what amount, and what the format was. This ensures there's transparency between both solutions there. Awesome. So let's jump back into the slides here. Hopefully that gave you guys a little idea of what we can offer when it comes to automation. So one more poll question for you guys. After seeing that short little demo there, would you be interested in seeing a more personalized demo of Sage AP automation for your organization? Now, again, today's presentation has been very AP focused. However, if you are curious to hear more about AR automation with Quadient's account receivable, you can reach out to your account executive at BAS or us here at Quadient for that as well, and we can help you get set up.
And the poll will close in about 15 seconds. Perfect, and the poll is closed.
Awesome. All right, well, thank you all so much for taking the time to join us for today's webinar. All that's left now is our quick question and answer session. So feel free to drop any questions into the chat if you haven't done so already. We'll give it a few moments.
So we do have our first question here. The first question is, which payment methods are supported?
Absolutely, so great questions there. So when it does come to payment methods, we have actually a few different options now. So for the fully automated payments platform, we do have, we facilitate wires, checks, virtual credit cards, ACH or EFT payments. However, we just recently launched a bring your own bank solution as well. So some of our customers want the visibility of a payments workflow with the approvals, able to see an age payables report. However, they still want to use their bank to send out payments, and no problemo, we're able to configure a bank file for the bank to ingest to continue to do payments as you do normally.
Great. Second question that we have is, what kind of customer support is included?
So in regards to customer support here, it's always guaranteed and included. You can reach us via phone, email, chat within the application itself. Now, typically it's a within 16-hour response time, and that's kind of the base module there. In the beginning, some of our customers like to, up the support response time a little bit as their team is starting to learn, or if they're ever training new team members. Now, when it does come to support in general, we also have like a Beanworks University or Quading University. Essentially, those are on to help you guys within the system. So for example, little videos, step-by-step guides, photos, frequently asked questions that are always readily available.
Great. Next question we have is, how long does it take to set up?
Great question there. So in terms of implementation, it's really broken down into 3 core steps. And the timing around those 3 steps, typically we see Sage customers being up and running within 1 to maximum 3 weeks. And 3 weeks is being quite conservative there. So when it does come down to it, it's technically just the integration call that's getting you guys up and running and set up. And by the end of that, that means the system's already working for you. So you're able to run invoices through. We'll take you through a configuration to make sure that we're building out the bare bones of the workflow for you, including creating those approval channels, helping your users get those appropriate access and permissions. And lastly, training. And that's a live session with a product trainer to make sure you guys are comfortable and confident with the platform.
So that does conclude our question period.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, everyone, for joining us. Have a wonderful holidays. Again, if you do have any questions following today's session, feel free to give myself a shout at that email address, or even better, reach out to your account executive at BAS, and they'll be able to help you get set up with some next steps. Hopefully, we'll see you soon.
Perfect. Thank you, Sarah. And thank you, everyone, for attending our webinar today on a merry closing entry and happy fiscal year.